Hello! It's that time of year again, the time of disagreements, disdain, and malice. It's Game of the Year. As I'm sure you've seen from many of the Home Button's videos, there's no shortage of differences in our opinions, but this is my video, and these are my opinions. Which means they're right. So, without further ado, here is my top 10 list of 2015. Number 10. Tales from the Borderlands. The Borderlands game that felt the most like Borderlands than the actual Borderlands games. Telltale succeeds in Tales from the Borderlands where Gearbox has not, by developing a rich and clever story in Gearbox's wonderfully unique world of Pandora. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of narrative, and the story that Tales tells is one that hooked me from the beginning. It's also no secret that I'm not the biggest fan of episodic games, so for Tales to succeed in making me want to come back to its world after weeks of waiting is something that should be applauded. The banter between the characters is natural and actually funny, something previous Borderlands games had in low supply. I truly hope Telltale returns to the world of Pandora. Number 9. Rocket League. Where the hell did Rocket League come from? It'd be a disservice to say that Rocket League has become anything less than a cultural phenomenon in 2015. It took the insanely simple concept of soccer with cars and perfected it. Plain and simple. It's a multiplayer game I find myself returning to more often than I ever would have thought. It just never gets old. And I don't think it will, really. It doesn't matter that I'm absolute trash at it either. It's a blast to play, especially with friends, and I've caught myself screaming in excitement when big plays are being made. It's the only game on this list that actually has me wanting to play it after talking about it. Number 8. Batman: Arkham Knight. I'm not sure what else I can say about Batman Arkham Knight that I haven't already in my 1-minute review here on the home button, but I'll do my best to summarize it. Having not been plagued by the unfortunate performance issues on the PC like a majority of players, my experience with Batman Arkham Knight has almost been completely positive. While I wouldn't say it's the best installment in Rocksteady's trilogy, it still does its job tremendously well. It really feels like I'm playing as the Batman gliding over Gotham, beating thugs and goons to a pulp, interacting with supervillains, and solving mysteries as the world's greatest detective. And while I may have some gripes with the legitimacy and effectiveness of the Batmobile in the game, it's still fun as hell to ride in the mean streets of Gotham. Number 7. Fallout 4. If you asked me a few months ago that a Fallout game would be on my top 10 list, I would have called you crazy. Yet, here it is, sitting pretty at number 7. My first foray into Fallout was an interesting one. I enjoyed Skyrim, so I thought I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting myself into with Fallout 4. Again, I underestimated the worlds that Bethesda can build. The sheer amount of things to do in Fallout 4 is staggering, so much so that it's actually a little intimidating, which I have yet to decide if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've caught myself losing track of time wandering the Bostonian wasteland, clearing location after location, in search of awesome loot and crafting materials. Speaking of crafting, Fallout's crafting system is something that I'd never thought I would fall in love with, but I found myself prioritizing gun crafting over pretty much everything else, especially the story. The weapons I crafted felt like they were unique and mine alone. While I can never forgive the state the game shipped in with its multitude of frustrating bugs, I can't deny the fun I've had while playing it. Number 6. Halo 5 Guardians. I had very high hopes for Halo's debut on the Xbox One. What I got didn't quite match my expectations, but still delivers on a Halo game I can see myself playing until the next one comes out. Why? Well, it's hard to talk about this game without letting my Halo nerd bias cloud my judgment, but Halo 5 surprised me in a way that I actually wasn't expecting. While the story mode, the thing that drives me to every Halo installment, was lacking to say the least, Halo 5's multiplayer caught me by surprise. I wasn't impressed after the multiplayer beta, but 343 Industries managed to nail down the final product this time around. The player movement and additions are spot on and flows extremely well, and I truly see it as a positive evolution for Halo, something that the series desperately needed. Warzone's twist on multiplayer with its rec system and PvPvE scenarios are a great touch, and move the series forward in a way that has me excited all over again. I'm hoping that 343 can put as much effort into Halo 6's campaign as they put into Halo 5's multiplayer. Number 5, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Another series that I'm new to, Metal Gear Solid 5 gave me the stealth game that I was hoping for in 2015. I'm a huge proponent of stealth games and play them as sneakily as they'll allow me, even if they're not necessarily stealth games. The last time that stealth felt as satisfying as it's done in Phantom Pain was in Dishonored and Mark of the Ninja, and that's saying something. Phantom Pain is such a tight and cohesive game that, for the first time that I can remember, every little thing I did actually felt like it mattered. Once I got used to the base management aspect of Phantom Pain, it became one of my favorite parts of the game. While the story is laughable, especially from someone who has a meager understanding of the lore behind the Metal Gear universe, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is one of the most solid games I've played in a long, long time. It's just a good game. Number 4, Undertale. This one really snuck up on me. Taking the internet by storm, Undertale is a game that I had zero expectations for going in. I knew barely anything about it, and that's how I recommend going into it for anyone who might want to play it, because you absolutely should play it. Without getting into it, Undertale hits the retro sweet spot that many indie games strive for, while also introducing new ways to play its type of game. Its narrative is touching, funny, smart, and aware. It really makes you think how you approach games. Its soundtrack is also phenomenal. Undertale is a very difficult game to try and explain, and also explain why it's so good. So just play it. You won't regret it. Number 3, Destiny: The Taken King. Yes, of course, Destiny is on my list. And while the addiction has subsided by the time of this recording, I'm sure it will find a new way to reel me back in quite soon. The sheer amount of time I've played Destiny this year is scary and something I'd rather not go into. The reason why Destiny is on this list is not because of its earlier expansion this year, House of Wolves. No, it's because of Taken King, Bungie's expansion for Destiny entering its second year of life. What the Taken King introduced is what Destiny should have been from the start. Many community gripes were fixed, an actual story was added, quests were varied and interesting, player progression felt right for the first time, and new subclasses are fun and mixed things up, and the raid was rock solid, while the fantastic multiplayer stayed primarily the same, albeit some much-needed nerfs and buffs for some weapons. The experience that I've had with friends while deep diving into this game is something that Destiny has done to me that no other game has really done before, and that's why it's so high on this list. Number 2, Ori and the Blind Forest. In an industry that is dominated by big 3D worlds, Ori and the Blind Forest was a disruptive breath of fresh air. Its hand-painted 2D art style and animation is simply breathtaking, and paired with its astounding soundtrack, Ori is truly a force to be reckoned with. It scratches that Metroidvania itch in all the right places, and has one of the best narratives without a single line of spoken dialogue. It's tight, fast, rewarding, and its bash mechanic is one of the best mechanics in the platforming genre. Period. It's an emotional experience from beginning to end, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. Number 1, The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 really struck a chord with me and reminded me of what a AAA game can really be. Its campaign is grand and its world is spectacularly striking. It's not only massive, but it's dense as well. The writing, performances, and deliveries are all phenomenal. The combat is streamlined and easy to get into, but the complexity is there if you're looking for it. The options this game gives you is astounding, and I really felt like I was transported to the world of The Witcher while playing as Geralt of Rivia. Everything and everyone in this world has a story and brings the world to life like not many games can do. CD Projekt Red has made nothing less than a masterpiece. And that concludes my top 10 list. It definitely was not an easy list to compile, as there are a few honorable mentions that I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about just a little bit. Dying Light was a fantastic time and nailed player movement down like few games have before. Until Dawn was a horror game that I actually played and liked. It was good. Rock Band 4 came out, and while I normally wouldn't have mentioned it after having bought the cymbal expansion for the drums, it's added an entirely new and fun dimension to the game. And while not necessarily out yet, Overwatch is definitely on my radar for next year, having played the beta and enjoying the hell out of it. Of course, I can talk about all these games I've talked about for hours, but this was just a short, concise list. So let me know what you think and what you agree or disagree with in the comments. And if you think I missed a game, be sure to shout it out as well. Thanks for watching.